Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're on the road. Welcome to the Celtic World Tactical Review. Resplendent new introduction there for you. Hope you all enjoyed that. Bit of work went into that one. So thank you, Gavin and the team. As always, I'm joined with Paul Massey as we discuss Partick Thistle 0, Celtic 4. It's quarter-final of the League Cup. Semi at Hampden awaits against the Mankey Mob, but we will be discussing what happened last night. Before we get into that, Paul, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good, mate. Down south, so had Friday and today off. A little bit of a long weekend. People will probably be saying that's a little bit wide of me, given I was just back from a month's holiday to Europe and the Middle East, so that's a fair shout. The time was already booked. Had something we had to do down there. But yeah, weather was good. Spring looks like it's sprung in WA finally. Perking up this week a bit more. And yeah, pretty good all round. So yeah, cracking weekend. Got back about lunchtime today. Lazy afternoon, and we'll get back into work tomorrow.
Nothing quite as elaborate at my end, but yeah, it was nice to have some nice weather. So I went for a couple of long walks and did a bit of gardening and all that sort of stuff. Cooked a big, massive tomahawk steak, which came out a treat. So yeah, I kind of felt like I did watch the Grand Prix as well. Oscar Piastri having probably one of the worst weekends he'll ever have in his professional sporting career, but won't bore you with the details on that one. We may as well get into it, Paul.
Before we do, I think Gav suggested I do a little appeal.
Please do.
Little mention. So yeah, I think some people have spoken about this pretty openly on the show and other shows and on social media more generally. But yeah, and not like a lot of people. Cancer is something that's happened close to my family. Wife's been through breast cancer. I lost my grandmother to breast cancer. Lots of friends over the years have been touched by it, and I'm sure that's the same for everybody that's listening. So yeah, pretty close to my heart, particularly at the moment. So yeah, every year my work does a sort of charity walk, cycle and run. I'll only be walking, awaiting knee surgery, so we'll only be walking this year. But I will be doing that on Wednesday. And I think the plan is to put this little section out with a clip and the sponsorship link. So if anyone wants to donate $1, a few cents, or a few more for an amazing cause, please do so. I think Gav's going to send all that stuff out later on. But yeah, appreciate any support we can give. And if not, just keep your fingers crossed that I can make it around the track for the walk on Wednesday, given it's going to be 29 degrees. And yeah, one duff knee already and another one awaiting surgery. So yeah, it's a bit more challenging than usual this year, I think.
Yes, dig deep because it's obviously on for good cause, and strong commitment for you, Paul, every year. So I will sort that out after the show. As per usual, about an hour and a half, obviously, before the game last night, the team lines come out, and it was probably a bit of a thought who could type it into the group chat first, me or you? It was like, say midfield. We're updating ourselves here. We've got some graphics, so yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, we're endeavouring to be a little bit more interactive, so that you can sort of not just stuck looking at my beautiful head and Paul's mush as well. So so 4 changes from the team that went to Rugby Park the week before. Sinisalo coming in for a League Cup game, which seems to be the way that Rodgers is playing that one. We've got Tierney back in at left back. We've got a same midfield 3, as we discussed, and then Yang coming back in from the cold at right wing, and then Iheanacho starting up front for his first start for the club, and Tinekti holding on to that spot on the left. Paul, obviously lower league opposition, a chance to freshen things up. a chance to get a bit of fluency, as Brendan Rodgers has used that word several times. Thought I'd get us into the swing before we take a trip over to Serbia midweek for our opening Europa League game. Talk us through your thoughts early doors. And I will say, comment section's a bit quiet at the moment, but if you want to sort of, Anthony, you want to shout out or point out, or get it up in the comments, and we'll endeavour to get it up on the screen. But take it away, Paul.
Yeah, well, as you alluded to in the intro, there was a bit of disappointment from quite a few of us in the group chat when the team was announced. I think we all wanted to see some change in that midfield. It's been pretty staid, to be honest, pretty flat for quite a few games, and I think we all wanted to see Bernardo, Engels, McCowan, any one or two or three of that get some game time. As it was, the manager left it as it had been. And I guess I don't know about your thoughts, Aaron. We'll get into it in a bit more detail. I feel like I had to eat a little bit of humble pie because it's probably the best that midfield three has played all season. Now it is only Partick Thistle, but I certainly thought they produced more and looked better than they had pretty much any point so far this season. I'd have liked to see Dane Murray start at centre back. CCV's looked, and he had moments again. He hasn't looked as sharp and is up to as you would like. And he just hasn't looked as steady and strong as he typically does. So yeah, Dane Murray's had some nice cameos. I thought it would be a good opportunity to get him some game time because he may be required. And yeah, you could have tossed a coin on the left back as far as I'm concerned. In hindsight, good to get KT 90 minutes under his belt. Whether he will be then able to do the same again on Wednesday night in Belgrade is another story. Yang was a bit of a surprise. I know Balagwisha hasn't sort of set the heather on fire, but you'd have thought he'd have been given another run against lower league opposition, maybe get some confidence up. Nice cameo from him when he came off the bench. So yeah, not quite what I was hoping for. But I guess in hindsight, the manager can feel pretty vindicated with the performance he got out of kind of the starting 11 for sure, and for the most part. And yeah, the subs all contributed as well. So good day at the office for the gaffer and the team, if not the board.
Yeah, obviously there was some more protests before the match, and then at halftime again. I guess from my point of view, I think the protests were quite effective because I was watching on Premier Sports, so you had all the commentators like Michael Stewart, Rory Hamilton. They were talking about it, discussing it throughout the coverage. So it's having the desired effect. Michael Stewart saying, where was Tanecki a month before that Champions League qualifier? He'd have made a massive difference, particularly at Celtic Park. He's echoing all the things that the fans are saying. So, you've got to say that's getting beamed around the world. So, it's making that protest known. I guess from my point of view, I'm not a huge fan of things getting thrown on the park. You had Celtic players sort of taking things off the park at the start of the game. All right, fair enough. Make your point, delay the start of the game, but then things were still getting thrown on as the game was going on. And I was worried that somebody was trying to roll an ankle, or I think there was one time there was a pass that got displaced because it sort of deflected off that. So I just think we have to be careful how we, as a fan base, how we choose to protest in a way that minimizes the risk to the team itself. But by all means, definitely effective, because obviously you can see that the board members who were in attendance were disgusted. So that's kind of what you're after. And then the second half, quite effective. Just the long litany of our European qualifying failures, which like I said, it just sort of it just sort of hammers the point home that this isn't a one-off. This isn't we didn't quite get it right this time. It's just been a cavalcade of errors. So yeah, it's but anyway, we'll yeah, we'll move on from there. But yeah, Paul, again, me and you clamoring for a midfield change. And then, like I say, it sort of clicked. And I think the sense of urgency was there from the get-go. Brendanrodgers sort of alluded to in his post-match comments that we chose to sometimes go long, sometimes go out wide, sometimes go through the middle, a bit more direct. But we varied it. With a caveat that I kind of felt we did sort of use Cannae mainly down the left. We didn't use Yang as much, which can happen in a game. And obviously, the way that Sebastian started, you want to try and utilize that sort of hot form that he's in. He's always showing. And again, Michael Stewart alluded to it as well. It's just the fact that he's always willing to play a forward pass or do something to progress the game. So take a man on, cut inside, but cut inside with the intention of playing the ball forward, not just squaring it or cutting it back and starting again sort of thing. So I think there was very sort of early signs that we were going to get a lot of joy sort of down that left-hand side. Right, the get-go, and it was a very early chance in the first sort of 3 minutes of the game. Just didn't quite get the cross to Iheanacho. I think he sort of checked his run a little bit as well, when he probably should have. If he'd have carried on, he may very well have gotten the end of it. But I guess that was the sort of highlight and the sort of positive that first 15, 20 minutes doing well. It's not so much where the goal's going to come from, so much as how long is it going to take us to score. And I think that's probably the first time this season that we've actually felt that, we've been in that situation. And yes, I get it. We're playing against a team in a division below us. I understand that, but you still have to beat what's in front of you. And we sort of started on a very sort of positive footing. So from that was positive. Even though the park, apparently the grass was very long, it's still a lot more enjoyable watching a game on grass as opposed to that plastic monstrosity from last week. But yeah, Paul, open slather, mate. So you have the floor. I'm going to check these comments out and have a look and see. Take us wherever you want.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We had to, the manager's right. There was more forward passing. We just looked a little bit. Yeah, there was more urgency. Players like Hatate running in behind and running off. I think Iheanacho made a massive difference. Like, he didn't drop as deep as Adam Idah had been dropping at times, but Idah really struggles to link. Had really struggled to link the play. That's not a strength of his. We've talked about that a lot. His strengths were in the box between the posts. Not too much time to think, and he's pretty lethal. But I ask him to drop deeper around the center circle and play little passes off and hold the ball up well and link the play. It's not really what he's about. But in the actual, he didn't look like he was in the game very much for large parts. But every time he was in the game, he was being really efficient with what he was doing. He would get the ball in barely, like sometimes just one touch around the corner or one touch and then pop it off. So yeah, I thought, if you weren't paying really close attention, you could miss a little bit of that, because it was really congested in the middle. So when we did try and go centrally, a lot of time players just were blocking the Partick Thistle defense and midfield were just blocking it up, and we had to kind of recycle it and go wide. And so with the times we looked most threatening was when we were able to transition back to front quite quickly. And that was usually through Iheanacho as a focal point, sort of just flicking it off. There was a couple of key times in the half that happened, CCV getting it in and him flicking it around the corner, Yang getting to the byline and dancing in, and Hatate following in and sort of, he was beyond the front post. So probably a difficult one to tuck away, but really slick move. And yeah, the striker's absolutely key to that. He didn't have a lot of service in the middle. And this is something we've talked about a lot, that, the central striker doesn't tend to get that much service in front of the post. And that's because a lot of teams play really deep against us. And therefore it's hard for the central striker to get beyond the back line and get a chance to tuck one away. But I thought, yeah, Cannae had another good game. We were pleased with his threat last week, albeit he didn't really have anything sort of to hang your hat on from an end product, but he was dangerous all day. and I think we were both critical of the fact we maybe didn't feed him as much as we should have when he clearly had the run of the fullback last week. And I think we learned a bit this week, and we played much more to that strength and kept him on it. And yeah, the first 50, 20 minutes, nothing really fully clicked, but it did look like it was just a matter of time. And then I think about 24, 25 minutes, it clicks into gear and it happens. And then we all kind of nearly miss it. Even on the TV, it was sort of, as that going in, the angle was poor in terms of the TV, the camera angle, but even poorer in the stadium, obviously, because there was no cheer until his colleagues got around him and started patting him on the back, and then there was a sort of belated cheer from the fan base, obviously on the far side. I wasn't sure where it had ended up until eventually 2 or 3 people congratulated him. I think the fullback. So we'll take a step back. Hatate gets it in midfield. He slides a great ball down the line to Tenecte. Tenecte doesn't mess about. He kind of cuts inside and then slides a little ball in the gap to Nygren. He gets the byline and he just floats one to the back post. There's not a huge amount of power or anything on it. And Yang, everybody's attracted to the middle and the ball, as you can see in this slide here. And Yang's kind of completely free at the back post. It's not a particularly powerful header. It's sort of just sort of nodded towards goal, and it's look at it. It's what, a couple of yards out. You'd think it'd be hard to miss, but we thought he had.
He has missed those before.
Yep. That's happened. And I think I don't know if it's too much credit to say that the defender had half a thought of maybe knocking it around the post with his arm, and decided against it. And it just sort of glanced off him and went in. Maybe he had no time to think. But yeah, if he'd done anything more meaningful to keep out, you're probably looking at a penalty and a red card. If those are the rules these days, I don't know. Are we on double jeopardy? If you handle a penalty, is it a yellow or red? I can't.
Well, there was no VAR, so you'd be relying on the referee to get it the first time around.
So you would, exactly, and based on some other decisions that happened, you'd be hard pushed to bank on that. But yeah, great start. Nygren, I've been quite critical of him, and he's got to put himself about with half decent results, but in recent games he hasn't really. He's soft and puffed and hasn't really produced much. And I thought he had a good game. His service was better. I still don't think it's anything earth shattering yet, but he's still early in his Celtic career. So I'm happy to give players time to bed themselves in, and 2 assists, a pretty good return for him. And he'll be pleased to add some return to his performance, because he has sort of dipped in recent weeks. But yeah, Yang will be pleased, even though he didn't look it. And then we're up and running. And from there, for the next 10 minutes, could have scored 3 or 4 in that little spell. We've just basically peppered the goal. I think Tenecte's in a minute later, and then the corner, and then the second goal. But I'll pause for breath and let you come back with some thoughts from there.
So thoughts on the gallery. So my dad's saying here, looks like the team is starting to put it together and still unbeaten. Yeah, this is true. And yeah, I think, as Brendanrodgers was saying, really trying to sort of build a bit of momentum. And I think, we were expecting wholesale changes, but the reality is we're all at the moment, up until now, we've been playing 1 game a week. So he's probably still trying to get his regular starters game time. And he also made the comment that any of the players who went away in international break didn't really get much football while they were away. So he's still, I think, a bit mindful of trying to get minutes and legs. Obviously, the biggest one, in the end up was TNT, and he played 90 minutes, which is apparently the first time since a Scotland friendly back in 2024 or something like that. So it's been a long time that he's played 90 minutes. So that's a big thing, he said, psychologically. So so that was a good one. Ian Roy just pointing out that we still have Jota and AJ to come back. I think AJ made a comment during the week that he's ahead of the time frame for coming back, but still no actual time frame, if that makes sense. So it's still day by day, but at the moment he feels he's ahead of his recovery, which is good. And then also that comment from Ian Roy just saying that the bright sunshine made it hard to watch on the telly. And I have to agree, it was a bit, it's just, I can only imagine what the players were going through, particularly going from the shady bit to the sunny bit. But yeah, it did have a bit of a glare to it. But we managed, and I was a bit bleary-eyed at 10:30. And Had a few
Try
beers by
watching
then,
it on
but it was
your
okay.
try watching it on your phone, mate. It was it was a struggle.
I was on
I'll be
my
honest.
iPad. I was on my
Well,
iPad. So yeah.
that's a wee bit bigger than my phone size. Yeah, I couldn't get on the Wi-Fi in the accommodation we were staying in, so I couldn't get a screen mirroring onto the telly. So I was stuck on the phone. Which coupled with the brightness of the brightness and the darkness on the shaded area was a struggle, as my aging eyes are finding out. So analysis certainly that first 5-10 minutes was I'm glad nothing much happened then, because I wasn't really on it at that point. I was still trying to get it together and get a good spot to watch it.
I just found that my iPad was getting closer and closer to my face the longer the game went on. So I was like, I need to put it back. I'm ready to go blind. Another comment from me, Roy, here, just saying, I think we should have Yang a break. He's not that bad. Maybe if we get behind him, that would help his confidence. I actually think he's going to get an extended run in this team, because I think Brendanrodgers has come out and said that he's not going to play Balikwisha as a right winger. He played him out of position last week against Kilmarnock. It didn't quite work. He sort of a bit lost and not really providing much width or anything down that right-hand side. So I actually think we'll see quite a bit of Yang between now and Christmas. January. I hope he does perform. And one of two things: either he stays because then he's developed and he's a starter and he's getting the game time that he wants, because that was the main reason why he wanted to go to Birmingham, was the fact that he wasn't getting game time. At the moment, it's him and James Forrest. So, I mean, you have to think he should be getting the lion's share of the minutes. Yes, I mean, the fact he got that goal was a good finish. The thing I liked was the two images we just put up before, but the amount of distance that he made up, the way that Negron sort of floated that ball up, it gave him plenty of time to sort of run in. And it was a bit of a muted celebration, but I think he sort of turned around and realized that there was nobody there, because that's obviously a dead end of the ground. Like there's no actual supporters there. I mean, there's a couple of guys sitting there by the goal, but like, who's he going to celebrate to? Like, there's nothing there. So I actually think maybe that was part of the reason for the muted celebration. But it definitely caught Michael Stewart and Rory Hamilton by surprise, because I was sort of like, I shouldn't have hit the side net. And so, so it was a great wee goal. And 3 minutes later, Paul, we make it 2-0. And you kind of feel that the tie's, I'm going to say, almost done and dusted already. But you kind of start feeling it wasn't a case of a shaky day at the office. It was just going to be a case of how many were we going to score. And it was from a set piece, which it's a Stales right on the left of the frame, so you can see the sort of acute angle that he has managed to glance this header in from. I kind of feel the keeper made a bit of a meal of it, and I think I bet a keeper would have saved it, but still, he did really well to get it on target, and it was the old wee short corner. And another good delivery from Negron, because we've sort of criticised his floating type crosses, but this was actually a really, really good delivery. And the change of angle, just made a big difference, and sort of caught the Partick Thistle defenders sleeping.
Look, I think so. As I said, this corner comes from another chance for Cannae, cut inside. Keeper sort of makes a good. His shot's probably a bit central. He should probably find a corner, and if he does, he's probably scoring his first goal in the first half. Keeper makes a good save, sort of managed to get an arm back across and goes for corner. And from that set piece, we do this. So I think Tanecki just gives him a short corner to Negron. It's more of a whip cross than some of his deliveries from the corner flag. They tend to be a bit floated. This is we've got a wee bit more whip on it. And Scales, really, like I've talked about this a lot, he's really our only threat from a set piece. And given that is the case, I still don't know how he manages to score. He doesn't score that many, but he scores probably more than he should, given that most teams, if they do their homework, would know he's their only real threat. But he's got no business scoring from here. That's the end of the frame where he's sort of right past the 6-yard box and the ball's in the net. But he's outside the 6. He's outside the 6-yard box, the far side of the 6-yard box when he initially makes contact. He gets a great flick on it. A keeper's probably not quite standing centrally. He's probably in the back half of his goal. So he's got a long way to get across when it hits that front post. And I think he's a bit scared of damaging himself. So he starts beyond. He starts where those two Partick Thistle defenders are. He's probably bang in the middle of that. Maybe where Colby Donovan's head is. He's starting sort of 2/3 across his goal probably, and then he realizes he's got a lot of ground to cover. And yeah, I think he's worried about smashing himself into the post, and he just sort of flaps at it, and it drops in behind. But yeah, it's a good header by Scales. This is one of the things, I'm a critic of his, and I've got criticism on his performance yesterday. It won't surprise people to hear. But I think the things that I always say he's good at, which is blocking and stopping and heading in both boxes, he proved he was decent at that again. It's other areas of the game that I've got issues with, and we saw that again yesterday in pockets. But yeah, we'll get to that because that's closer to halftime when that stuff happened. But yeah, great header. We're cruising at that, and we should be cruising at that point. And we go on for the next 5 to 10 minutes. We pepper the box. The shots from everywhere. The shot, Colby Donovan has a strike that just flies over on his weaker left side, but he hits it like a rocket, and it just flies a bit high and shoots over. There's a couple of snapshots inside the box.
There's a double volley chance from Negrin.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah. He doesn't really get great contact on him, and it's like a crowd scene in there, and it hits defenders within a yard or two, so nothing comes of that, and it's bouncing around. There's one, I think there's a good cross to the back post that just nobody kind of gets to. It just kind of keeps moving through, and then. I think I can't remember if it's the Yang run and the Hatate chance. Is that before we start making a mess of stuff at the back, or
yeah? I mean, I think it's around about 40 minutes that chance comes up. So I mean, I don't know whether it was either side of that, but I think
there's one either. I think there's one either side of that. So I think
that would have been a goal of the season contender had that gone in. It's just the crispness of that passing. Iheanacho just. The flick out to Yang. Yang does everything right. Lung bust and run. Gets to the byline. Looks up. Sees Hatate. Hatate's made a lung bust and run. Like he's run about 40 yards to get on the end of it, and just unfortunately gets in front of the defender, but just can't sort of curl it into the goal sort of thing. But that would have been a tremendous goal had it come off. But that was the sort of the style of play that Adam Ida just wasn't capable of forming that type of flick. And if that's what we're doing from Iheanacho when he's playing, then I'll bring it on, because that just adds a different dimension, because you're basically releasing your winger in a high area. You've sucked out at least one central defender out of position by doing that. You just you really upset the apple cart. And when we played against these low blocking teams, they're the sorts of moves that change it up. And I must admit, when Yang did get on the ball, he did look direct. And like I said, I just think if he gets that extended around the team, I'm hoping that maybe this is the season that maybe we see a bit, and he gets a bit of confidence, and he gets a couple of assists and a couple of goals. But I mean, quite easily could have been one. But yeah, like I said, Hatate did everything right. Just unfortunately couldn't finish.
Yeah, I think he just starts. He's just too far beyond the post to try and turn it back. Yeah. It's a hard angle for him to score from. Am I right in saying that Iheanacho turns it around the corner to Negrin, and Negrin slides the pass into Yang on the run?
Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was.
I think it doesn't just turn around the corner. I think it's the turn around the corner is barely like he just flicks it, and I think Negrin's running onto it, and then he slides a really well weighted pass in. And then Yang's away, and he sort of pokes it around the defender and sort of dances around him. And then once he's in the box, the defender can't touch him because he's obviously worried that he's going to take him down. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Great move. And that was, and I think it was CCV that fed it into Iheanacho, and that was a great piece of play by CCV, which is some of his distribution's been poor of late. But that was sandwiched between two shockers. But as poor as CCV was on both of those ones where there was danger, I'm going to point some finger of blame at Liam Scales, because he, in both cases, pushes a badly weighted pass back to the keeper when we're being pressed by 2 or 3 strikers. Bear in mind, this the keeper isn't playing regularly, and Sinisal's got no real option but to play it into CCV. The first one, CCV sort of he gets entangled a bit, and he gets pressed and robbed. and there's time for defence to get back in. Fair play. Scales, like I said, does what he's good at. He stands up well, and he shepherds across, and he gets a good block in. But for me, the issues come from him in the first place. And you could argue Sinisalo should just put his foot through it at that point. There's a press coming. Maybe that's the inexperience of not being in the team regularly. And yeah, you could say CCV is a wee bit stronger, but he's receiving it in a really bad position. Like, he's got 2 or 3 people breathing down his neck at that point. And I know the grass is long and the pitch played slow, but Scales has trundled a pass back. And then a few minutes later, he does exactly the same thing from further back, like right in the touchline. And again, since Sal's only got one option at that point, he can only give it to CCV, and CCV probably his body shape's even worse. He's facing back to the keeper. He hasn't got his body open. He hasn't got any angle to create anything. And again, instead of it just giving it back to Sinisalo, who can put his boot through it and go, okay, we'll reset, he tries to take a couple of touches, he gets entangled, and then we're in a right mess. And I think you're right. We should have been home and hosed before halftime. We created lots of chances. Tails were up at 2-0, and we just gave them a little bit of something to cling on to. That if they could nick one, maybe they could get in a game, even though they showed very little. I don't like until the decent save by Sinisalo second half. I think that's the only save in the match he has to make, and it's decent. So yeah, I think we just gave him a little bit of a nibble, and I'm sure Mark Wilson's halftime chat would have been, if we can get one, we can keep it tight. If we can nick one, we got a game, and then, we know what happens from that. So yeah, we opened the door just a sliver, and then we kind of firmly shut it just after halftime.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great sort of start to the second half. Again, I was sort of settling back in, and all of a sudden it was 3-0. So it was nice to sort of get the 3 up, and then that sort of effectively kills the tie, as it were. So we've got some still images here. So this is Iheanacho playing the 1-2 with Tanecki. And yeah, so and a nice comfortable clinical finish from him, because obviously this was the big concern, being the his end product, but absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can see he was over the moon to sort of get the monkey off his back in terms of getting his first goal for Celtic. So it was nice. It was straight after the resumption of play. Paul, can you remember who played the ball into Iheanacho in the first place?
Well, Tanecki is it's a 1-2, but the ball that releases, the ball that releases Tanecki is an absolute screamer from Hatate, who's then followed his run and is on his shoulder there. Hatate gets a there's a bit. I think it comes in from either, I can't remember if it's a set piece or open play, but I think it must be a set piece, because it's heavy. There's a heavy weighting of players in our box, so I'm assuming set piece. Can't quite remember. And then it sort of breaks out of the box, and Hatate picks it up, kind of maybe 25 yards from our goal, and Tanecki's on his bike, and he just whips out one of those classic Hatate forward passes, which we've not seen very much of at all this season. So hopefully this is the performance that sort of lights a fire under his backside, and we start to see some of his undoubted talent more often than of late. It's a brilliant whip ball inside the fullback. He's away, and then they're in all sorts of trouble. Then he's bearing down on goal. But as simple as it looks, the Iheanacho, one touch pass called the classic wall pass. It's just absolutely brilliant. Look where he is. There's 3 defenders between him and Tanecki, and he's just turned it around the corner at a perfect weight. Tanecki doesn't have to break stride. He just gets onto it, puts his boot through it, and it's a great finish. He tucks it away. I think we've all been quite excited by what we've seen. I think, a lot of us are, as much as we're excited, we're kind of trying to temper that excitement, because we've all seen players that started like a steam train and fallen off a cliff, and vice versa. And so we don't. And the other thing is, when the team's not been absolutely firing, and we're disappointed with the quality of signings we've had, or the complete lack of signings in some cases, there's a danger you put too much pressure on one player's shoulders, and he's expected to carry the weight of expectation for the whole support. But yeah, if he keeps putting performances in like this, he's unfortunately going to have to carry that weight of expectation, because at times he's been unplayable, and he's only 2 games, and I will keep my powder dry, and we'll not make any ridiculous predictions.
If he scores a hat trick midweek, then we can go crazy.
We can maybe go crazy, but he's one of 4 left wingers we've got at the club. One of them's injured, obviously, in Jota. I thought it was telling, and we're jumping ahead a little bit. I thought it was telling in some of Brendan Rodgers' interviews over the weekend, where he sort of opened up and said, "Oh yeah, well, Balak-Wisha's playing on the right, but really he's left winger as well." Dyson we thought was out the door. I think was it McGregor made comments that his locker had been emptied. So yeah, we really were that close to Daiza Maeda being on his way. Hence the stockpiling of left-sided attackers. And now we stayed and we've got tons of them. So no right-sided, unfortunately, which means Yang and Jamesy Forrest will carry that weight of expectation for the coming period, like you say, probably till January. And you're right. If Yang can put a bit of it's hard to expect Jamesy Forrest to carry the predominant sort of starting play for that. I think he will again provide something over the course of the season, but he shouldn't be asked to be a starter. So yeah, I don't know what we'll see in terms of will we see Maeda used on the right occasionally? I don't know, because again, it's early days in an actual Celtic career, but he's looked very, very classy yesterday.
Could you deploy Luke McCown out there? I mean, is he sort of like, has he
he's
been underutilized?
Though, he's got no pace.
Once he gets in on goal, though, he is very
clinical.
In a minute, but
he is very clinical. I think you've said this before, and I tend to agree. I see him as a sort of better quality version of David Turnbull, where he comes on mid to late in games when teams have sort of started to tire, and he can really press an advantage with his skill set at that point. He's sort of flattered to deceive in most of the games I've seen him starting. And I thought early in his career, maybe that was just a weight of expectation and sort of the weight of the jersey. Obviously, he's been a Celtic fan his whole life and all of that. And it was, it's relatively late in a career to get that opportunity. He's come through the Scottish club ranks. So he's got to Celtic kind of the hard way. But yeah, I'd love to see him kick on, but I'm not sure. He's certainly got he's naturally left-footed, so that's what we want on a right-sided player at Celtic. We want somebody that kind of cuts in on their favoured foot, in terms of the system. So I don't know. I think there's opportunity to rotate through that right side, because we haven't, as you sort of alluded to, we haven't got that resolved, and I don't think it'll be resolved until January at the earliest. So it's kind of available for experimentation, and I think there probably will kind of have to be, because as you say, we're going into a period now for 2 games a week for pretty much the next 3 months.
I do normally do some stats for the match as well, but whoever was doing the stats this week were a bit drunk, because they have us at 50-50 possession. I can Partick Thistle, so I'm not going to put too much stock into them this week, because obviously whoever was doing them decided to chuck it halfway through the game.
I've got the match stats from the BBC, which aren't always absolutely perfect. They're probably better than what you're looking at by the looks of it. I know that they've definitely got one bit wrong, because they've got shots on target or saves by our keeper, none. Well, he had at least one, like I said earlier. But yeah, we've got 76 to 24% possession, which would be at least that, I would think. And 22 shots in total to 7 from Partick Thistle. 8 on target to 2 on target. They had 3 saves. And we had 9 shots off target, 10 from outside the box. Double the fouls committed by us, 12 to 6, and a yellow card each, which is maybe a good place to segue into that yellow card, do we think? Or is there any... We probably want to touch on the substitutions.
I was just going to mention the substitutes. So 59 minutes, Balak-Wisha, Maeda, and Paulo Bernardo on. Bernardo's alive. And then that was in place of Tanecki, Iheanacho, and Callum McGregor actually getting a breather.
Quite shocked, weren't we?
Who'd have thought? But yes, so that was good. And then in about 10 minutes after that, we got the introduction of Arnie Engels for Rio Hatate, and a minute or two after that, Luke McCown coming on for Benji Niederen. Yeah, bit of a nasty challenge on Arnie Engels. It was definitely, Michael Stewart alluded to, if the VAR had been involved, there may have been a case for it getting looked at. But yeah, definitely a sore one. It may raise a question of whether he'll be able to bounce back from that. He played the rest of the game, but I think he'll pull up pretty sore after that challenge. It's a late one with the Thistle captain just getting the ball getting away from him, and bit of ill discipline, shall we say?
Yeah, I think first look, I thought it was pretty dangerous. And if I can see that on my phone with a bright screen, and it looks like it's borderline red at that point, I'm pretty disappointed that 4 officials can't manage to get it even without VAR. And this is one of the problems with VAR, right? I think one of the problems with VAR is it's made officials quite lazy. They're more than happy to not have to make a decision on the pitch because they know they've got somebody that can run their eye over it and get them, to fix it if they've made an arse of it. I think it's a pretty nasty challenge. Like, by nasty, I mean he's quite badly. Albeit I don't think it was malicious. I think he's kind of opened his body on the turn. He's had a sloppy touch and it's drifted away from him. And his second touch is a shocker of a foul. And to be fair, Engels has come in and nicked it away pretty quickly. And he's probably not expecting to get the ball nicked away from him quite as quickly as he does. But then, yeah, the studs are up. I think the back of the boot catches him on the heel, and the front of the top of the boot is catching him somewhere up near the ankle. I would be very surprised if VAR looked at that and didn't tell him to upgrade it to a red. So yeah, I think Captain Turner was a bit of a lucky lad to only get a yellow. But yeah, we know that at these rounds of the cup that not every ground's got VAR, so we get on with it. And it was kind of, I mind you, I was going to say it's kind of refreshing that there wasn't big delays. It was a massive delay after the Yang goal, to the point where I was like, we haven't even got VAR. Why are we waiting for this? Do you not think it took ages to restart the game?
Yeah, it felt
like they were checking VAR, and I was like, well, hang on, they haven't even got VAR. And yeah, so a bit of
maybe the referee was checking VAR, and then they're like, there actually
no
isn't
VAR for you.
Any
no VAR for you.
No VAR for you.
But yeah, that was probably the only major contentious decision in the game. It wasn't. By no means was it a dirty or ill-disciplined game, but yeah, I think he was a bit of a lucky lad there.
Rubber Duck's not a big fan of the VAR. Yeah, and that happened on 75 minutes. I'm actually trying to find who was our yellow card recipient, because it's not, again, these stats are incomplete because it's not even telling me who
it was. Liam Scales in 20 minutes. And I'll be honest, I can't really remember the incident. I was still juggling watching that.
I may not have had a micro nap at that point, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway, I don't remember that. Anyway, all good. So yeah, 79 minutes. We score our 4th goal, put the icing on the cake, silencing the crowd, as it were. So Luke McCowan here, in on goal, and it was Balakwisha who won the ball. In a challenge, managed to just sort of get it clear to on-running Luke McCowan, who, again, good ton of pace to sort of get in front of the defender, and absolutely, does well to smash it home and finish it. So that, for me, was a good bit of play there. It was good to see Balakwisha sort of being a little bit more positive. Big criticism every time he got the ball, he was playing it backwards, but he was trying to sort of, there's a couple of times where he flicked the ball forward, and there was one, I think he put Maeda through, and Maeda sort of blasted it into Rosed. But again, that sort of passage of play, which is a little bit different style to Tanecki. Tanecki would obviously try and drive it to the line, where Balakwisha's looking for that pass. And he's a strong guy because he won a couple of challenges. Gave away a free kick one occasion, I thought, a bit unfairly. But yeah, like just really quite a physical presence. So I think in Europe that could come in handy. And yeah, Luke McCowan sort of a little gesture to the crowd. Obviously, somebody, a few people in the stand were giving him a bit of grief.
I reckon that was probably while he was. I bet you that was while he was warming up. So he'd have been warming up along that touchline, I would guess, or had to pass there, and he was probably getting some grief from there, or maybe just when he'd sort of entered the pitch or round by corners and throw-ins. But yeah, I've got no issue with players giving a bit back if they're taking dogs abuse from the stands. It goes with the territory.
Especially when your team's getting studded 3-0. I mean,
yeah, well,
and then you're in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I was happy with Ballotwisher. Yeah, bit of a brief cameo. But you're right, showed good strength. I thought for this goal, he kind of makes a pest of himself. It's one of those, he's kind of sneaked his foot around the corner and he showed good body strength to kind of keep the kind of player in play. It's one of those these days, 50-50, whether that gets given as a free kick in favour of the player with the ball, but it's allowed to play on, and McCowan, scampers away, and as he does, great finish, nice and tidy into the corner. Funny how he can tuck those away, but he can't manage a basic penalty. Just always a bit of a frustration for me when players can't tuck the ball away from 12 yards, but they can run in on goal and slide them in and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, decent finish. And then Ballotwisher is what you're right. He put the one through for Maeda, and then he ran through on one himself, and he really sort of was giving himself a bit of a hard time because he kind of miscued it, and it sat up quite nicely. And I think because I was watching Celtic TV, but one of the benefits of watching Celtic TV is sometimes you get the Premier Sport commentary, apparently, because Celtic TV is so hopeless, the commentary doesn't work, so you end up with a mixed bag over the course of I think I had half Premier Sports and half Celtic TV first half, and then the other way around second half. Maybe it was all Premier Sports second half. Anyway, yeah, he gave himself a bit of a hard time, and it did set up nicely, as they said in commentary on Premier Sports. And yeah, he didn't quite manage to just get the nice little lob on over the top to tuck it away. But I think, yeah, just like we shouldn't get too excited by Tunecti after put my teeth in after 2 games. Equally, we should, I was pretty critical of people that were losing their minds after 2 games for Ballotwisher, because it's plenty of time. But I do worry slightly that, where are all these players going to play? Because when Jota comes back, we've got 4 left wingers. Now, I imagine in Maeda, one of them will be gone in January, probably, since these players have been bought to replace him, and we didn't sell him because we didn't have a striker. But yeah, I think there's plenty to come from them. And yeah, good, I think weirdly our 2 best performances this season have probably been in the League Cup with changed teams and against sort of in Falkirk, obviously just come up from the Championship, Partick Thistle in the Championship. So it's not, you don't want to be getting super excited, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's more about what we do in these games against any team in Scotland, particularly in any game, but certainly the teams that in Scotland, it's about how we impose ourselves in the game. And just moving the ball more quickly, moving it forward more regularly, and mixing it up is definitely going to cause other teams problems. And I don't think we've been very guilty of not doing that in too many games this season. And it was nice to see that back. So hopefully we can kick on in Belgrade and see what happens out there.
Yeah, I think a comment here from Rubber Duck just saying that Yang will go as well. I like to say, I think his biggest criticism was he wasn't getting game time. So, if he gets game time, then maybe that changes. I don't know. We'll see. I know a few people in our group chat have written Yang off, but you never say never. He's going to get an opportunity, you would imagine, anyway. So to make that position his own for the next few months. So and see what he can do in the meantime, and see if he can get on the score sheet and get more assists. Paul, the Premier Sportsman of the match was Sebastian Tunecki. Do you agree with that, or have you got another candidate that you'd like to nominate?
No, I absolutely agree with that, as I think you will too. So I think we'll be dishing out back-to-back man of the matches for Sebastian Tunecki, if I could. I'm going to have to get better rolling that off the tongue if we're going to be speaking about him every week.
You'll be doing a Gav masterclass tomorrow morning, Paul.
I know how to say it. It's just not. It's a bit of an awkward one to say.
I know. I think the other mentioned Sinisalo. I think it was a good save. Their one chance that they had, it was obviously goal bound, and he managed to sort of turn around the post with a bit of a diving save. I kind of felt his distribution, it was a bit like sometimes really good. Like he got the ball, he threw it, it was a couple of throwouts.
I think from hand it was. I think from hand it was very good. I think with feet not so much. But obviously,
a couple of those dinky passes as well, which I just think never ends well, because then your centre half's trying to trap the ball with an attacker breathing down their neck, and I just think it's asking for trouble. So
yeah, I'm gonna give him sort of benefit of doubt because of the quality of the pitch and that, you know, he still easing himself in. I think I've got real high hopes for him ultimately.
He's dynamic. Like he was everywhere. He was Eddie everywhere. Like in terms of like positioning, like he was moving around.
There was one cross he came out and flapped at, and he got nowhere near it, and I was like, second half. So I think we were comfortably 3-0 up probably at that point, if not 4 already. But that was a little worry, and that's just bad execution probably. But yeah, like happy enough with his performance. I thought Colby Donovan, a lot to like again. He's another one a bit like Yang. He's going to get a chance for a run in the team until, you know, obviously AJ is ahead of schedule, but we still don't know what that time scale is. So you're probably looking at about another month or so for him. 2 games a week, there's plenty of time. Now he's not going to displace AJ in the team, but let's be honest, Alistair Johnston somebody will come and buy him at some point, whether it's, you know, January or I think the summer's probably as late as that's going to go. Now I don't want to see AJ out the door. I think he's the, you know, if he wanted to stay, he's the kind of guy who could ultimately replace Callum McGregor as a captain of that club. But I think a guy who's in his mid-20s will probably want to test himself in a Big 5 league. So somebody will throw some money at him. You see the comment about Newcastle. I think he was just out to watch the game. I don't think there's any more seriousness in that. But yeah, I think he will end up at a richer club in a better league. So if Colby Donovan continues on the trajectory he's on, he could well be the long-term solution for that. And we'd love to see another player coming through the academy, because it doesn't happen often enough. So I think he's definitely pushed his way past Tony Ralston in terms of the next choice. So yeah, great to see. But yeah, he'd probably be the other main mention. Obviously, like I say, a couple of assists for Negrin, and yeah, Hatate looked far more dynamic and played some killer passes. So yeah, maybe we're just starting to see players. It's still early in the season, right? Like, and there's a lot of angst about more than just the playing performance. But yeah, and Rodgers alluded to that in his post-match interview. Like, the team's starting to just gradually step it up, and yeah, unbeaten, albeit that the 3 games that we really want to win, we only managed 0-0 draws. So that kind of unbeaten statement kind of glosses over some of the key factors, particularly when you add penalty shootouts to it's not really unbeaten at that point. But yeah, Belgrade will be a huge test on Wednesday, and we'll see how we look after that.
Message from our followers in Denmark.
Here in Denmark, we totally love Glasgow Celtic. Casper is the latest Great Dane to grace the green and white dynamite. Everyone should click that subscribe button. It's easy and costs nothing. Mun the hoops.
If you are not already a subscriber to a Celtic World, we're a broad church. We've got the tactical review on Monday nights. We've got a view from America Wednesday into Thursday morning. And then we've got the regular show on Monday nights and Thursday nights as well. So plenty of content to get around. Paul, what have you anything you want to add to the game before we move into recommendations? Is there anything that you wanted to that we didn't touch on that you wanted to bring up, or you happy?
No, I think we've covered it. I think, like I say, it's obviously we haven't touched on the draw. So obviously you mentioned briefly, we've obviously got Rangers in the semi. I think the only thing to say about that is, there's a few games to happen before that, but we really need to bring a performance because it's been a long time since we've done that. I'm, a little more optimistic given we've got, players starting to get back to form. And as I say, Tanetki looks like a real find, and a few more games for Inacho and we've got genuine competition, because I think obviously Maeda's going to play through the middle, given the left wing options. So yeah, plenty to still be upset about in terms of the boardroom, and hopefully that pressure will continue. And from everything we're hearing in the background, it will. So yeah, I guess urge all fans to kind of get behind it ultimately. But also, I think the main thing is that the fan base is united. I think we all think, or I certainly think that there's a probably broad agreement that we've not done as well as we should have, from an infrastructure and from a signing point of view, and that there probably needs to be a freshen up across the sort of upper management and the general sort of background and infrastructure. I think if we can keep a bit of unity, even if other fans don't necessarily want to take part in whatever protests are going on, I think, you know, we don't want division in the fan base. We just want to kind of, you know, be as united as we can and try and make progress, because I think there's probably enough of us that think domestically it's all well and good, but we should be limiting ourselves to domestic wins and close and allowing the gap to close. Domestically, we should be really pushing on and moving ourselves to that echelon in Europe where we test ourselves regularly against the best. And whilst we're going to struggle to get into those up against those top 5 leagues regularly, a club like Bruges absolutely shows the blueprint we should be attempting to copy, and we're a mile off that at the moment, and we won't progress to that level unless we see some change in terms of how the club is run and brought into the modern era. So that's kind of the main thing to say on that. I think we'll be covering more of that, particularly in the Monday and Thursday flagship shows, as this campaign sort of moves forward. And yeah, we're part of a fan media sort of collective that will be sharing information on that and making sure people are aware of what's going on.
Sorry, do it to you, Paul, but have you got any recommendations? I know you said draw your breath.
I have. So I've got a couple of recommendations. Actually, I probably got 3 recommendations this week. Could even go 4, but I'll save one for next week. So music as always. I've got a couple, and these probably couldn't be more diametrically opposed. I've got a current album and I've got an amazing reissue, which I imagine will resonate with a good chunk of the Celtic support. So the new album I want to flag up is the sophomore album from Wet Leg. Their debut came out in 2022. Chez Lange was the big single. It was everywhere. It was, you know, they came out of nowhere. They were kind of punky, female-led band. Really enjoyed them. But their second album, Moisturizer, came out in July. And I've been getting around that in the last few weeks. So yeah, if you enjoyed Wet Leg's debut, then their second album, Moisturizer, is out now. Already a few hit singles off it. But the reissue, which I imagine that much more of our support will be across, or will be resonating with them, is the 40th anniversary of release of Rum, Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues, their second album, released in 1985. So yeah, the 40th anniversary is out now. It's got a bunch of additional tracks on it. I imagine that the vinyl release will be excellent. I might well going to start. That's another middle-aged thing I'm about to do, is get myself into a vinyl collection. So as if I don't have enough ways to waste money as far as my wife's concerned, that'll be another one. But I imagine the 40th anniversary edition of Rum, Sodomy and Lash will be an early purchase. A bunch of bonus tracks on the release, including some live tracks from the Barrowlands, I assume, at a similar time. So yeah, Rum, Sodomy and Lash, the 40th anniversary release by the Pogues, probably in my view, certainly their best album. But yeah, that's a couple of music recommendations for you this week. Bit of a telly recommendation. We've again, day off, smashed 5 out of 6 episodes today. I'm not, as you know, regular viewers will know, I'm not really allowed to binge watch TV shows. My wife doesn't like to binge. She still likes to drip feed it over the week, but I was allowed to binge it this week, or today. Didn't quite get to the last episode because I had to come and do this for you fine people. But the show is called The Girlfriend. It's on Amazon Prime or whatever you call it, Prime Video, depending on your streamer. It is Robin Wright, who people will know as Robin Wright Penn, Once Upon a Time. So she's, I think, both director and star, along with Olivia Cook. They play girlfriend and mother of this young man, and they very much get into a bit of a bun fight over said young gentleman.
I love triangle.
With many, well, I don't know, yeah, kind of, yeah, and very many twists and turns. It's it's well acted, and it's a bit saucy, and there's a bit of excitement and nonsense in it. So yeah, it's easy watching. I think the episode's about 45, 50 minutes. So yeah, smash through. 6 episodes in the season. Watch 5 today. Nothing better to do of an afternoon when you've got the day off and you've had a busy weekend. So yeah, that's my tele recommendation, The Girlfriend on Prime.
I don't know if I mentioned this last week or the week before, but I'm halfway through, or it's generally week by week, so you can't binge it. But Peacemaker season 2, so DC Universe, John Cena playing the title character Peacemaker, but Robert Patrick playing his father, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, for those playing at home. And then just an absolute ramshackle cast of supporting characters. It's just, it's crazy. First episode of the second season has an orgy, and yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, it's from the mind of James Gunn, who is trying to single-handedly resurrect the DC universe as we speak. And then Superman has also been released on your streaming platforms this week as well. So if you haven't seen that at the movies, that is well worth a watch. Went to movies to see that. So that was, like I said, it was a good return to form for that studio. We've ticked over an hour, Paul, so we've done well. We will be back next week discussing Celtic versus Hibs. That's on the back of our trip to Serbia midweek.
I guess
to try and pronounce that team, because I don't know how to say
We'll say Red Star Belgrade. Well, we say Red Star Belgrade for those of us of an older generation. We'll go with that.
That works. So hopefully 2 wins. We'll be back discussing that, but we'll obviously drip feed a little bit of European action.
I'll
to that discussion.
Yeah, we will. But I think I'll probably be on Thursday night show, I imagine. So we will probably, that will be the focus of Thursday's show. We'll be discussing the game then, but we will probably touch on it post Hibs as well.
We've got a couple of comments here. Monty just saying, Paul, good luck for your charity run, mate. Yes, good luck with that, Paul. Break a leg. Not literally.
I don't need any more injuries, so hopefully not.
And Graham Bell saying, good show, boys. Thank you, Graham. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm madly clicking buttons to make sure I don't stuff all this up, but I think we're pretty good to go, Paul. So I think just all it's left to say is we'll see you next week, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail.